The NFL trade deadline, it has come and it has passed, and it went out with a bang. The final hours was just insane. I was trying to whip together my 7-round mock draft in the midst of all this happening, and then just, oh boy, man. Speaking of which, that'll be out bright and early for y'all tomorrow. It's still uploading. It's going through the process and checks and whatnot, so check that out. I put a ton of work into that, so go ahead, show it love. But I wanted to get something out for y'all tonight, so you're gonna get my reactions and my opinions on some of these trades. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Let's switch over here. We're gonna be seeing this via NFL.com as things have finally slowed down. I feel like that Dean Marlowe trade is the final one we got as of thus far. See if anything sneaks in here, but let's go ahead and talk about all of this. But first, special thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. If you enjoy weekly fantasy or maybe college pick'ems, player prop bets, and they don't just do the NFL, they do all kinds of sports, then check out Underdog Fantasy. If you use promo code Broshmo when you sign up, they give you a little bit more to start out with, and it helps the channel out. Also, bet responsibly. Let's get into this. I like this move by the Bills. Listen, you're a team that's contended for the Super Bowl. You're probably the odds-on favorite for the Super Bowl. Go ahead and shore up some of the wrinkles you think you have. Iron those out, and I think that's what they tried to do today, as we'll talk about another trade that they were involved in a little bit later, as they pick up Dean Marlowe to be a bit of a depth option. All they did was give away a 7th round pick, so nothing too crazy. It's kind of a throwaway at this point. They were like, you know, we value the depth more. To be fair, DeMar Hamlin has looked really good there in relief of Micah Hyde, who is hurt. So just grab it again, more depth. It's always a good option. Falcons managed to get something for it. Good for them. Really like the move by the Bills. Let's keep this sucker going with the Chiefs and the Falcons. This was another trade I actually really like, as Rashad Fenton is moving to the Falcons. The Falcons are like, you know what? We are legit playoff contenders. And, you know, one of the problems we've been having on defense, outside of the lack of pass rush, is what it is the cornerback position. We've had some injuries, AJ Terrell mainly. So let's go out and get a guy who's been proven, that's kind of fallen out of favor there in the Chiefs depth chart, as he's dealt with injuries, but they've been really pushing some of their rookies like Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. So they were able to go and get a conditional 7th for Rashad Fenton. I love the trade by the Falcons. At this point, the Chiefs are just stocking up on late 7th round picks, is what it is. But yeah, I mean, if he was just sitting on your roster doing nothing, yeah, go ahead and just make the move. I really like it for the Falcons. Again, they were dealing with injuries with Terrell, who was just out this previous week. So grabbing Rashad Fenton, I thought was a good move by the Falcons. Going to, this is the other Bills trade. Basically, the Colts and the Bills swap running backs, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I think Zach Moss was kind of a throw-in this trade. The Bills pick up Nyheim Hines for a conditional 5th, as we've seen some of these running back 2s, or these guys that are kind of like the scat backs in their committee, going for about 5th rounders. If you've seen like, well, we'll talk about Jeff Wilson later, or even like James Robinson. I know those guys aren't scat backs, but they're committee backs. So they grab Hines at a similar price. Zach Moss, he's been a healthy scratch like the past few weeks. I feel like he was just a throw-in in this trade. He has been doing nothing for the Bills backfield, and it's kind of weird because Hines kind of fills a very similar, if not exact same role as to James Cook. You may be like, okay, maybe this feels like an upgrade over James Cook, who is a rookie, but maybe you feel a bit better about your odds this year of going with Nyheim Hines and Devin Singletary as your running back committee, your core there. So I don't mind it. It's a 6th that could be a 5th. depending on which he'll probably hit those, whatever the conditions are for that, to move up to a 5th rounder. And again, Zach Moss is kind of a throw-in for this trade. Colts, they managed to get something out of it. Zach Moss, I don't think is even going to make a blip on the radar. He's very similar to what they already have there. Obviously, you got Jonathan Taylor, but Dean Jackson's been actually really good for the Colts. So again, Zach Moss, I feel like was a throw-in. Probably won't be on the team after this season. So essentially, the Bills got Nyheim Hines at a very, very good value. And then this was a big do-nothing trade here. The Broncos, after they got rid of Chubb, as we'll talk about that a little later, they make a move to grab Jacob Martin. And we already know the Broncos, in terms of their edge room, was kind of not bloated, but they already got some good horses back there. As we know, they got Randy Gregory. We know they got Baron Browning, who's been really good for them. I want to go take a quick look at the rest of their depth, as they have Nick Bonito, who's been a really good DPR guy. Jonathan Cooper is on the roster there. So it's like it made Chubb extendable, knowing that how much value. He was the most sought out edge rusher because of just Brian Burns was kind of off the trade block for the Panthers. We'll talk about that when we get there. And basically, they swap early day 3 picks for 2024, so not even this draft. So again, it was kind of just we'll swap picks, but we really just want this player. It almost felt like a formality, just swap those picks. Kind of is with these players, you don't mind dumping, and just, hey, let's just say, hey, we were able to move up around, even though it's like a day 3. So that's kind of what it is. And then this was actually my favorite move by the Dolphins today. Getting Jeff Wilson for a 5th rounder. I love this. They moved on from Chase Edmonds a little less than half a year into his contract, which we'll talk about that later. But they move on from Edmonds, and Mike McDaniel brings in a guy that he is very familiar with. He was the running back coach for the Niners when he had Mostert, when he had Jeff Wilson. He is familiar with this running back duo. He is familiar with this running back combination. So now they're reunited, and I bet it feels so good. You get them for a 5th, which, again, James Robinson went for that. So that was to be expected. I'm so happy Jeff Wilson kind of stuck in a very bloated backfield now with CMC there in San Fran, not getting the touches he deserves. Jeff Wilson now comes to a situation where he's familiar with the offense, and he's gonna have immediately better value. I'm sure fantasy fans love this. If you're an owner of Jeff Wilson, you probably spent big to get him after the Elijah Mitchell injury, and now you're just sitting with him on your roster like, man, this just straight up sucks, dude. Jeff Wilson's getting no volume. Not to say he's going to get a ton of volume there in Miami, but you know it's going to be a lot better than what he's been getting in the past couple of weeks with San Fran. So San Fran, they pick up a 5th. That's great. Dolphins, they get a commodity that they're familiar with. I love it. And then this one was definitely the most interesting, as we have Calvin Ridley got moved today. What the heck? He's not even going to play this year. And we'll get into the details of this trade because it's very interesting. As Calvin Ridley goes to the Jags for not a conditional 5th, it's absolutely going to be from what I've read, it is a 5th rounder for 2023. It's just this 2nd rounder is very conditional for 2024, and we'll talk about that. Let's first talk about what the move does for the Jaguars, because a lot of where they've struggled this year, and granted this won't have any real implications till next season, is they don't have a separator on the sideline, on the outside of the hashes. Christian Kirk does his work from the slot and underneath and over the middle of the field. Zay Jones, not really known as a separator. They get Calvin Ridley to be that separator on the outside. I really like that. Now, this is what happens with that conditional 2nd for 2024. Basically, it stays a 4th if he just stays on the roster. If Ridley reaches certain incentives in 2024, then it becomes a 3rd. If he ends up getting a contract extension, then it becomes a 2nd. So we won't have no idea what that 2024 pick is until the 2023 season. So unless they work on an extension immediately, which I doubt they will. So overall, Jags, they spent money. They might be spending money, but they spent a significant draft capital. Second rounder isn't anything to scoff at, potentially, to get a proven commodity, a receiver to help Trevor Lawrence. They're giving Trevor Lawrence, especially in year 3 coming up in next year, no excuses. So that will be a prove-it year for Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of like that mentality in terms of the Falcons. A guy that, you know what, like still in the prime of his career. I think he's 27 right now. But a guy that can help you out now. If anything, you're just going to search for that replacement in the draft, because free agency for receivers this year is just awful. Now let's talk about this Chubb trade. Chubb going to the Miami Dolphins for Bradley Chubb in a 2025 fifth rounder. Ooh. For Chase Edmonds, our first rounder this year. So great. Didn't have a first rounder last year. To be fair, we got Tyreek though. Didn't have a second either. But and a fourth rounder in 2024. So to be fair, the Dolphins probably feel they're a couple of players away from being legit Super Bowl contenders. They feel really good about that offense. Maybe not so much the offensive line. We'll talk about that. But they feel really good about the offense. They feel that they've become very transparent on defense, that they have the highest blitz rate of any team in the NFL at like 44-45%, that they don't feel confident that their front four can do it alone occasionally. So they make a move to get Chubb, who's been a proven commodity when healthy, to pair up with guys like Melvin Ingram, Jalen Phillips. They have Agba, who's a very versatile player there that can play four tech, play over top of the tackle. So they feel like, hey, if we bring Chubb into town, then we won't be as transparent defensively, and they won't have to always expect the blitz. Like, we're still going to blitz ton because that's who we are, but now we have a little bit more stank if we just want to rush four. So I understand that. I also understand that Chubb was going to go for a premium being a first rounder, because we heard that Brian Burns was how adamant the Panthers were about not trading Brian Burns, as the Rams offered 2 first rounders. Granted, none of them were coming this year. It was a 2024 and a 2025 first rounder for Brian Burns, and the Panthers shot that down, and that makes me happy, because there were certain pieces I really wanted to be a part of that rebuild for the Panthers. Brian Burns, DJ Moore. I love that. So I'm glad neither of those guys got shipped. So it made Bradley Chubb the biggest name at the trade deadline for the edge position. Dolphins, they feel like they're not so far away, so they make the move. I'm fine. I'm cool with that. However, looking at the offensive line, you really only have 3 reliable pieces, and one is Terron Armstead, who can't stay healthy for a whole season. Great when on the field. But he's already been beat up this season. Robert Hunt's been really good for us. Connor McGovern's been really good for us. Liam Eichenberg's been terrible, but now he's hurt. So now we have to bring in someone off the bench to fill in that left guard spot. I don't feel great about that. Next, the right tackle position has been a huge problem all freaking year. Like, Austin Jackson already has been god-awful to start his career. Got banged up. Greg Little's been filling in for him, and he has not been good. He's been pretty bad. So it's like they must feel they can get by with this offensive line. You're giving up a first rounder this year. Luckily, you still have your second. But I don't personally like that. But I get it if you feel like you can get somewhere this season with the team. I understand the logic in that. You move on from Chase Edmonds, who just wasn't able to get a timeshare in that backfield. It's been all Raheem Mostert. They apparently were very confident that they were going to be able to get Jeff Wilson, so that's great. So all in all, I don't love it. I feel like, again, Chubb, he got pushed to a premium because Brian Burns was kind of off the market. Chubb was that next guy. Chubb, again, another guy, great when healthy, but when healthy, you're going to have to think about how can you, what are we going to pay this guy at the end of this season? So it's like, okay, whatever. All right, next up, we got the Steelers landing William Jackson just for free. Word was out that he was going to be, if he couldn't get traded, then he would have been released. So Washington, Steelers are basically, hey, save face. How about this? We exchanged day 3 2025 picks. So basically nothing. Literally, as much as nothing can be, this was nothing. Basically, they just gave them William Jackson for free, this is a great move by the Steelers. It's a great move. Hey, Washington, at least you got something out of it. You were going to release them anyway. But great move by the Steelers. Your secondary is mainly the corner positions have been in shambles. William Jackson comes in. You know this guy's a good player. He just was never a good scheme fit for Jack Del Rio. So I love this move. This is a great move by the Steelers. The next trade that followed here, Steelers dished out Chase Claypool, as it was already rumored to be as such, for the second round pick. This wasn't even the Ravens second round pick they picked up. This was the Bears second round pick. So that looks a lot more juicier if you're the Steelers. So I love that pickup. That's a great pickup. Chase Claypool, sounds like he was a headache. He's been a headache in the locker room. So they were kind of like sold on moving him. It was just a matter how much. Receivers come at a premium. And it sounded like, hey, a lot of teams were in on trying to get Chase Claypool. The Bears, they had to spend if they really wanted to get him, and they've already been criticized for not getting Justin Fields help this year. And now that he's looking good, adding this is a good part, but now you got to think about how much is he going to be worth? Like, how much are you going to have to pay this guy? Granted, you have the money. We know the wide receiver class for 2020, or the wide receiver free agency class for 2023 doesn't look good. So I like the move. I still think they're going to be in play for a receiver in the draft, but this is a step in the right direction, even if it costs you a little bit. Like, good on the Steelers for getting, honestly, maximum. This is the maximum value I thought you could get for him. So they got maximum value for that. But Bears, granted, you had to pay, but you feel a little bit better now that at least you got something for Fields. So I understand it from a Bears perspective. TJ Hawkinson, this was kind of the first thing to set things off. Because once I heard Hawkinson, I was like, what? And then players started moving left and right. So this is the deal right here, as TJ Hawkinson looked like apparently a guy that they didn't really want to spend on in the offseason. So they move him to Minnesota, who Irv Hurt Jr. Banged up again. They really wanted to be getting something out of their tight end position there. They find it a very valuable position. So they get TJ Hawkinson, and they turn their second rounder in 2023 now becomes a fourth, and their third rounder in 2024 becomes a fourth. So they move on from their second and third, which is what it is. One's this year, then the next is next season. But honestly, good trade for the Vikings. It's fine. Like, tight end value, it is what it is, you know? So it's like, if anything, like, you don't feel great about turning two-day picks into day 3 picks, but it kind of is what it is. It's fine. It is what it is. If they should pay Hawkinson at this point. I imagine an extension is imminent at this point. Good on the Lions. You know what? If you were like, you know what, we're not gonna proceed further with this player after this season. Yeah, he was a first rounder, but it's the tight end position. We probably should have never done that to begin with. But hey, you can't be held accountable for the crimes of past coaching organizations. So you got 2-day picks out of this. So very good for the Lions. I like this move. If you already knew you were going to move on from them, a team that knows they're not competing, go ahead, see what you can do in the draft or maybe this off season. I want to talk about a couple trades that did happen prior. One being Raekwon Smith, kind of a big one, as he gets shipped to the Ravens. Ravens give up AJ Klein, is what it is. He wasn't seeing the field a ton, but the second rounder was kind of the big one, and then a fifth. You already have to pay Lamar this offseason. So maybe now, like, do you make this move just hoping it puts you in that Super Bowl contention? Because no one, like, Patrick Queen hasn't been great this year. If anything, this helps Queen. And then Josh Bynes just been good player, good depth guy. So Raekwon Smith kind of pushes that threshold for y'all. But is this just a one-year rental? I don't think so. Maybe they can get something done, but you know this guy's going to want to be paid like Fred Warner. He's going to want like 20 mil a year, which means what the heck are you going to do about Lamar? Like, that's already a big issue. Trying to get Lamar back. So, like, I don't know, man. Ravens, I think it's good for this season. Bears, hey, good on getting a pick. It was like, hey, this is cool. They got two second round picks. Oh, well, never mind. Oh, what? They gave away their higher second round pick because their pick for Chase Claypool? Okay, whatever. It is what it is. So this trade I liked for the Bears. Obviously, the contract negotiations kind of went south with them and Smith. Is what it is. They got what you can from it. Chase Claypool one is like, I get it, I understand. I'd rather if the second rounder they gave away was this one though. Kadarius Toney, he got moved. We'll see what he can do fairly soon this week. Actually, got moved to the Chiefs. I like this move a lot for the Chiefs. It's a compensatory third rounder. Keep in mind, former first rounder, and they threw a sixth in there just to be great. Just to be like, hey, whatever. But it's mainly a third rounder that's kind of like, ooh. So we know this is going to be like a top 120 pick, right? For all intents and purposes, it's going to be a top 120 pick. This guy was drafted, I think, at pick 20 in his class. Was that the 2021 draft? Yeah, it was the 2021 draft. Giants, he kind of fell out of favor. I said this when they picked up Wandale. I was like, Wandale and Kadarius kind of serve very similar roles, so I don't know what they're doing with that. Obviously, Wandale's the guy that this organization drafted, so they're like, this is our guy. Let's just go ahead and move on from Toney. He's been hurt. We can't get this guy on the field. He's wonderful when on the field, though, so maybe he can stay healthy for the Chiefs. The Chiefs get a little bit of stank. He's kind of better Mecole Hardman. He's the guy you kind of want to do all that stuff with, like get this guy out in space, let him make moves. Hardman's more of a guy that you just want to like get him to the sideline and show off that speed, or just kind of like have him break over the top and just take the top off of defense. So I like this. You've kind of known the Chiefs were having struggles with the receiving room, that we no longer have that crazy threat of Tyreek, but we got a lot of variety. We got a lot of different looking guys. If anything, this makes me more scared about Sky Moore, who's just, I loved it coming out of the draft, but just hasn't been able to get time on here. Not even as a return man. He's had a couple of muffs this year. And then the Robert Quinn is going to be the last one I talk about here, as the Bears were able to get a fourth rounder. You know what? At least they get off his contract after this season. Keep in mind, they're paying his contract this season for the Eagles, because the Eagles are like, yo, we're gonna win the NFC. Let's make moves to ensure that, and they do it in the form of the pass rush. They're taking that Bills approach. Let's get as many horses as we can, so our pass rush is just a top of freaking notch. And Robert Quinn does that. All they had to do was ship a fourth rounder. That's great. Oh, what? The Bears are going to pay this year, so we don't even have to think about what we're going to do with this contract till after the season. That's great. We'll figure it out when we get there. So I like this move for both teams. It was honestly quite solid. But this video has gone on long enough. Check out the 7-rounder tomorrow morning. That's going to be Boehner. I'll probably have a mock the mock Thursday, perhaps. And I'm hoping to get another draft video for y'all this week, more so just kind of looking at some of the other sleeper prospects that maybe no one's really talking about. I don't know. We'll see if I can put it together. I'm a busy man. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing as always. Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.